Hello Stormwater designers, welcome back to Clear Creek Solutions instructional videos. It's another hydrology education video where we go over the social aspects and history of water resources engineering in part 4 of this series. So if you want to learn more about the different kinds of hydrology and the ways of calculating runoff, such as SCS, continuous simulation, single event, the rational method, you can download our ultimate hydrology guide down below. It's free. Just go to the description box, give it a download, and yeah, so let's move on into the video here quickly about Clear Creek Solutions. Founded in 2005 by Joe Brasher and Doug Byerline. We do software development, hydrology solutions, 60 plus years of experience, and we developed wwhm 2012, which is used in Western Washington, as well as numerous other software packages that are used across the country. Now let's talk about the social aspects of water resources engineering. So most water projects are planned and financed by a governmental body. So when it's going to be a water resources project that's going to benefit society, a lot of that times it's going to be initiated by a governmental body, but private institutions and private contractors will also play a big role in that project. But when it comes to benefiting the entire society or an area such as a city, the government is usually going to initiate that project. So this may include municipal water supply, the sewerage system, state highway department, federal irrigation, or flood mitigation by a public utility. There may be some debate that will be initiated by individuals who understand very little about water resources engineering. So there may be factors at play here between individuals, whether they're elected officials or politicians or anyone else in the community who don't understand the problems that well and are going to have to debate with other individuals who don't understand the problems. And so the correct solution may not come about that. So that's why there needs to be proper engineering done. So engineers must take a firm stance in the interest of the public, and that's outlined in engineering civil code. But the engineers need to be able to take the stance on the project that'll bring about the most amount of good to the general public. And the decision should not be made on the political or emotional grounds of a few individuals. It should be analyzed a little more in depth than that. So careful analysis of the facts is important, and not becoming too attached to a project, and so not wanting to do a project so bad that you're willing to sacrifice a lot of the general public, its safety or resources just because you really want to do a project, to make sure it's actually good for the public as a whole. The code of ethics should be adhered at all times when it comes to deciding what projects to do and how to do them. So when it comes to project planning, it is a critical part of the entire project process. Recognition or political incentive may end up initiating your project. So a recognition of a problem, or if a specific politician or community leader decides that there is a problem, that may help initiate the project and get the ball rolling. A collection of alternative feasible solutions must be presented. So it's not usually that we have one problem, and this is the one solution we're going to use to solve it. It's quite often that alternatives are submitted for evaluation so we can look at their economic impacts as well as the costs and benefits, because each alternative might have different ways of going about things, different economic costs as well as different benefits, and it's important to look at all those and have a group or committee of educated individuals decide which is the best one to help fix this problem in the community. So we also need to evaluate the social and environmental impacts of a specific project, making sure that we're following water quality processes, not damaging natural habitats or completely upending the economy of a specific region. So we need to evaluate the feasibility and political practicality of the project as well. So the process usually follows a pattern of political incentive to definition of alternatives, looking at technical feasibility, economic feasibility, the social environmental acceptability, the financial feasibility, and then the political practicality of the project as a whole. So the history of water resources engineering: at some point in history, society determined how to divert natural flowing water artificially to save it for a later date or for other uses. So at some point in time, certain societies were able to find out how to divert natural rainwater and natural flowing runoff and either divert it to irrigation to water the plants during times when there was not a lot of water, or save it for the general community as a whole. History contains plenty of evidence of large water projects by past civilizations. So going back thousands of years, there's evidence of civilizations setting up large-scale water resources projects. The earliest large-scale projects can be seen in ancient Egypt, with large irrigation and drainage networks for their water. Many projects were then seen in the Mediterranean, China, the Aztec civilizations, and of course Rome. These may included dams, canals, aqueducts, and sewer systems. So there might have been actually some pretty complicated and sophisticated designs in these ancient civilizations to be able to harness the power of water. Some of the early works were not designed by engineers specifically, but were designed by builders, craftsmen, and technicians who had a lot of experience doing this, with some of the knowledge being passed down over generations. So the rules of thumb were developed by project leaders through the experience, but this information wasn't always passed down from one civilization to the next. And just from the experience of running these types of projects, the project leaders sort of knew what to do in these specific circumstances. The intelligent minds did not engage in manual labor in these civilizations, so it set back engineering for quite a while because it was usually left to the craftsmen and things like that. The most intelligent of society were not down in the trenches building dams, for instance. So organized engineering began all the way back in the 1700s with certain societies. So let's talk about the future of water resources engineering. Numerous projects in flood mitigation, irrigation, and other stormwater projects may have us think future work is not needed. So we may think that we have a lot of systems already in place in the world, and especially in developed countries, so there's not that much work to be done, but that's exactly the opposite. In modern society, we are much more dependent on water than past societies because of the high cleanliness standards that we have in the developed world. Requires a lot of water and careful use of that water. Industrial projects also require additional advancements in water resources engineering. And because of our increased urban populations and impervious areas, that's like roads and sidewalks, it requires more attention to storm drainage, water supply, and sewerage than ever before. The focus of water resources engineering changes over time based on the development of the country. So in the early stages of a country, it may just be in terms of making sure that we can properly mitigate large floods and get clean drinking water to everyone, continuing over time to making sure that we're not damaging the environment, looking at environmental impacts, more complicated water quality, and the best way to divert that water. The water resources engineering is a growing field and has continued to increase in activity over time. Water resources engineering in the future will be involved with some new technology and new concepts as new products come about and new methods come about in academia and in the professional world. Reclamation of wastewater and weather modification, land management to improve water yield, and new water saving techniques are topics of increasing interest. And as the world population continues to expand and more countries enter a developed stage, it will change ecologic patterns and also modify the water resources field. So conflict between preserving our ecosystem and the natural world and meeting our society's needs with the growing population will be a constant battle and point of discussion. So that is the discussion on the future of water resources engineering. Please like and subscribe to the video, and we'll see you guys next time.